Does startup advice online, especially on YouTube, actually work? That's what we are going to explore in this video. Before we do, I want you to forget something. Forget the fact that I am a 7-time funded founder with 2 exits. Forget the fact that I've been doing this for almost 30 years. Forget the fact that I am the chief strategy officer for startups.com and I've helped hundreds of founders. And forget the fact that I've raised over $100 million for my startups, other people's startups, as well as startup funds. Just forget all that. And I'm not saying that to flex right now, although it was kind of a flex, wasn't it? What I'm doing is I want you to put yourself in the situation of what we're going to look at next. And this was a comment that I saw on Reddit. It said a huge swath of the startup ecosystem are talking heads that provide little material value. I strongly advise any founder to look for the telltale signs of a professional whose only existence is startup talking head and run in the opposite direction. Of the 100 plus startup talking heads I've spoken to over the years, I've only met one that was genuinely useful. 1%. That's a pretty low batting average. Now, you might be thinking out there, well, if you're going to talk about whether startup advice online works or not, and most talking heads don't have good advice, especially stuff that works for startups, then why am I listening to you? And that's very fair. And I've had plenty of comments in my day challenging me online on this YouTube channel saying, you don't seem like a very good founder because you're just talking about doing startups all the time now versus actually going out and doing them. You could say that it is my professional job to be a talking head in the startup ecosystem, and that would be completely fair. And I say all the time that I think 50% of my advice is bang on. It is the greatest advice in the world. I just don't know which 50%. And by now, if you haven't run for the hills, if you're still watching this video, either because you like me or there's some morbid curiosity, I want to take a look at how you can make startup advice online work for you. And I'm not just talking about my startup advice. There's plenty of great startup advice out there, and there's startup advice that's maybe not so good. And I'll always call that out and I'll always try to be as transparent as possible. But the other thing I want to make sure that you understand is that I am not having a meltdown. I am not complaining about founders and what they say about my advice online and the founders that disagree with me. I have a very complicated relationship with social media, and I admit that all the time. I am not having a nervous breakdown, nor am I complaining. I'm just trying to let you know the advice that I would give about taking startup advice online and something that I do myself every single day. Here's a straightforward formula that you can follow to make sure startup advice always works for you. First, we're going to start off with the what. The what is the advice in of itself. So if I told you, listen, here's what I want you to do, or here's what I think you should do. You should go and use Facebook ads. You should go become a creator and start putting out YouTube videos. You should go do this and you should go do that. There's plenty of that stuff out there. Just look anywhere online, and every single place you turn, I guarantee you there's somebody who's trying to tell you what to do. The problem is, if you draw the line right there, then you are increasing the chances that that advice, what you are told to do, is not going to work, because there's so many other factors that go with startup advice out there. And a lot of founders and a lot of entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, listen to what to do and they watch, let's say, a 30-second YouTube short or something on a TikTok, and they say, all right, it's told me what to do. I'm going to go out and do it. But like I said, the chances of you succeeding are much lower if that is where you draw the line. So how do you increase your chances? Well, the next thing you need to do is ask when. So when does this advice apply the most? When should I implement it? When is the best time? Because timing has a lot to do with whether or not that advice is applicable to you or not. It could be one moment and it could be completely irrelevant the next. Therefore, you have to take time into context. So always ask yourself, after you've heard the what, when should I do it? And you may ask the person giving you advice and they can share with you, or you need to stop and think critically for yourself when it would apply to you. Then after that, you're going to ask how. And that's where you want to know how they've done it or how others have done it. In fact, the more hows that you learn from multiple sources, the more context that you are going to add, and therefore you'll be able to customize it for yourself. Because how you go out and do something out there and how I go out about it might be completely different. For example, you may hear the advice on what to do, and that's to do content marketing on social media. Now, how we go about doing it is going to be different. I happen to choose YouTube because it fits me. But there are other founders out there that choose other platforms like TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, and that's totally fair. We're doing the same thing, but how we go about it is different. Therefore, you want to be asking, how did you do it? Not tell me what to do and how to do it, because we can get that confused. A lot of times you'll hear how, and it's really what you should be doing, ABC 1, 2, 3. But instead, you want to ask, how did you do it? How did other people who are successful, how did they do it? Finally, this is one that a lot of founders skip, and that is, who else should be involved? Or who else should I ask? I have a mentor that always tells me, Ed, the next question you should be asking is who else should be in the room for this conversation? And that's what he asks his clients. He asks the people that he coaches and he mentors, who else should be in the room? And it's a really great question. For example, I maximize the chances of advice working for me when I involve my wife. My wife knows nothing about startups, nothing about business, and she does not care. She could care less about it. But because she's so intuitive and she knows me so well, and she happens to be the chairman and the primary shareholder on my emotional cap table, she knows how to advise me and to say things and ask questions that point out my blind spots. And that could include so many of the people that you trust, or maybe you need to go ask a stranger. Who else needs to be involved? A complete stranger. You may have to say, let's go check with a customer, someone who is a prospect. Let's go ask them. Let's go ask the public. Let's put out a poll. So the more you involve other people and you ask who else, whether it be close, intimate circles that you trust, or outside all the other people out there, because sometimes I get the best feedback from all of you out there in terms of guiding me. Sometimes people don't even know that they're giving me advice just by making comments, but I involve them anyway and I go check. The more you stack the when, how, who with your what, the more you increase the chances of making sure that it works. The further you go down and you get to the who question and you answer it and you apply it to what you're trying to implement as far as the advice, the better chance you have there's a positive correlation to your success. Now, let's say you have some doubt. You're not exactly sure. What you want to do is ask yourself why 5 times. For example, why would you listen to Ed's advice right now on this YouTube channel? Because, well, he seems to be like a nice guy, seems to know what he's talking about. Well, that's one level of why. But why does he seem like a nice guy? Or why does he seem like he knows what he's talking about? And you want to go deeper and then ask, why do we care? Why is that pertinent to us? Because I might have experiences that apply nothing to you whatsoever. Asking why 5 times is an example of first principles thinking. And the more that you apply it like a scientist, if you can't come up with a good reason after you've asked several whys, you don't have to ask why 5 times totally, but if you ask yourself a good 2-3 times and you can't come up with a good reason, then you should question whether you implement that advice or not. Sometimes your motivations are going to be completely different, and that's what you have to ask yourself as well. Why do we want to do this? Why is it important to us? And after you ask those questions, don't shy away from the answers. If you involve the other people who, and you get to ask them why, and they ask you why, and you can't come up with a good reason, well, then you've saved yourself a lot of trouble. You don't have to be disappointed that you're not going to implement that advice and maybe you don't have the solution at hand in that moment, but you've saved yourself a lot of heartache and a lot of the time that you're going to take to go online, go to places like Reddit and social media and comment on YouTube videos complaining that startup advice online does not work. Let me just repeat here, whether or not you know my background, whether or not you trust me, I hope that you get to know me, like me, and trust me, it does not matter. You have to go through the critical thinking skills to make sure that you apply the advice properly so it works best for you. So get out there and start applying this critical thinking framework. And if you happen to want some more advice from me, as we've established, you've got the best way to process that. Watch some of the other videos that I'm going to be putting on the screen. Got lots of things out for you here. And the best part, it's all free. So therefore, the risk of you listening and applying some of this is going to be basically zero if you use this critical thinking framework like I've been talking about this entire video. While you're here, do the YouTube thing, like, comment, subscribe if you like this type of content. And thank you so much for giving me the benefit of the doubt, hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next video.